The Aserai Vanguard Faris is the only cavalry option of the Aserai, and it has the reputation of being one of the most dangerous troops to encounter. Not only that, but this unit is the peak of the Aserai noble line. Those units reach one tier higher than standard troops and can only be recruited in castle villages. Other than that, they tend to generally have better gear than standard troops and way better weapon skills. The Vanguard Faris brings 171 handed, 40 more points than standard, 200 polearm, 70 more points than standard, 140 throwing, about average, and 170 riding, 40 more points than most tier 5. As you might know by this point, cavalry in this game doesn't have it easy. As long as you play on Bannerlord difficulty, most cavalry units tend to be less main carries, and instead they cover a more support / technical role. The Faris role is in fact not the kind that charges the enemy, but instead they use their 5 javelins to social distancing from the enemy and kill them from a safer distance. Units like these haven't been too good for basically any patch, but after 1.8 they buffed the throwing AI. All of these units receive significant buffs. For cavalry, I think the first thing to cover is not their lance but their general armor instead. In the case of the Vanguard Faris, it brings an abysmal 37 head armor brought by the cheapest of Aserai merchant, the pointed skull cap over mail coif. Unfortunately, despite their noble troop status, this will rank the Vanguard Faris in 8th position among cavalry units. The body armor instead is a very good 65 combined between the luxury scale armor and the reinforced scale pauldrons. This will be enough to rank the Vanguard Faris in 3rd place among cavalry. When it comes to the horse and barding, the Faris brings a combined value of just 258, combined between the Aserai horse and the reinforced half plate barding. This will rank the Faris in 8th position among cavalry. The thing about these guys is that they have good barding, but the horse is, well, crap. The horse is good for racing, but not that great for fighting. Speed works in both directions. Yes, it will improve the javelin damage and the lance, but it will also improve the damage taken by the rider and the horse from projectiles and lances, making it a double-edged sword. And it will also reduce the margin of error for thrust attacks, which will make the lance miss more than necessary. When considering head plus body, the Faris ranks 5th with a value of 102, but loses 1 position when we consider all armor types. With the armor out of the way, let's talk about the equipment. The main weapon of the Faris is the Mamluk lance. It has 85 thrust speed, making it one of the fastest spear for cavalry. The length is 170, a bit too short, but the speed makes up for it. The base damage is 36 and it can couch too. Overall, not a bad option. Possibly one of the best for cavalry AI, but this unit is still going to struggle in melee due to their innate horse speed. When building captains, I recommend selecting thrust speed perks and avoid riding skill increase perks like nimble steed. Trust me, the last thing these guys need is more horse speed. Since we're talking about projectiles, let's quickly cover the shield. The Faris brings an ornate adarga. It has 420 HP by a length of just 60. So if you thought the Battanian Horseman was bad at tanking incoming fire, then these guys are going to be even worse. For close quarter combat, the Faris brings a fine steel long cascara. It's the same as the veteran infantryman. And if you watch that video, you know I talk about how bad this weapon actually is, but despite that, how the veteran made it work. Well, in this case, it's the opposite. The Faris doesn't have enough armor to make it work, and instead ends up being the worst in melee out of all of the noble cavalry units, and just an average performer when we consider all other cavalry units. Going forward, we have possibly the most important piece of equipment of this unit, a set of Jarids. These bad boys bring a base damage of 121 and a stack of 5. Best skirmishing option a unit can get, and they do have quite an impact on the battlefield too. Now that we are done with the equipment, let's get down to the stats. When considering the efficiency versus archers, the Faris finished 3rd with 2 2nd places and 2 4th places. They finished with a KD of 7.33 and a KD of 93.19 versus low tiers. The Faris lost 12.38% of units, and their average casualty chance against low tiers was 2%. When considering efficiency against spearmen, the Faris once again ranked 3rd, with an average KD of 8.28 and a KD versus low of 241.73. The Faris lost 10.95% of units and ended with an average casualty chance versus low of 0.27%. And finally, when considering the melee efficiency, the Faris ranked 6th, with an average KD of 4.57 and a KD versus low of 59.67. The Faris ended up losing 31.86% of their units, and average a 2.72% casualty chance versus low tiers. The data looks promising outside of the melee efficiency, but let's go ahead and list the pros and cons. Their helmet is bad, not just for a tier 6 unit but for a top tier unit as well. Their body armor on the other side is very good. The horse has a low HP value and honestly carries a bit too much speed for my liking, but the barding is very good and the extra damage delivered by the Clarids is also quite nice. Talking about the Clarids, they do make the unit very versatile. The sidearm is quite bad, and when we take into consideration the low head armor, it makes this unit quite bad in melee. The shield is very tiny, allowing for many projectiles to hit the Faris. They get the extra survivability for being tier 6. My final score is a 4.5 out of 5. This unit is quite good, and outside of the head armor and the shield, it's very well protected. They can lance effectively enough, but the real strength is their throwables. 5 Clarids can one-shot most troops in 1.8, and this unit is great both offensively and defensively. All you need to do is find a way to flank your opponent and impale them. But that also means it's going to be one of the toughest units to face. Be very aware of these guys the next time you encounter an Aserai army with a lot of cavalry. Tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, doesn't matter, you should always be aware. Anyway, let me know what you guys think and what troop you want me to cover next. Right now I have one request for Sturgia and one for Vlandia. If you want to make sure I cover the faction you care about, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.